This is an opportunity for me to share what we learned when we did LinkedIn organic for 90 days. We didn't do it for completely 90 days straight. There was a few days we missed, but it does give you kind of a pretty good idea of what to expect if you're going to do LinkedIn organic, mainly to generate organic leads, but also to be able to give back to your community through content. Now, when I started on this, I hired a full-time marketer to help manage everything. And there's definitely a lot of learnings here. The reason why is because I realized that whenever we're looking into outreach, hey Sandra, thank you for joining me. Nice to see you. Let me know if you've got any questions throughout, by the way. So when I was looking into organic and I was trying to figure out what is going to make the most sense, I realized that we needed to generate inbound leads, not just outbound leads. So whenever you're running your business, you need to be able to figure out how can you manage your book calls in a way where you can generate consistent income, especially as you start to scale and you start to have employees and people working for you. You need to be able to understand what needs to happen consistently. Now, a lot of people have moved away from ads because of how expensive it is. So this is where there's a happy medium between AI, automations, etc. But the organic is like the bread and butter that if you can get working well, is going to enable you to start moving things forward in a really great way. So I thought I'd give it a go. I wanted to see if we really focused in on organic, what would happen. And the results were actually pretty cool. We got, I think, 300% more impressions. We managed to get 12 kind of book calls over 90 days. That's roughly about a book call a week. Now, we get about 5 to 7 minimum doing kind of different outreach on LinkedIn, but being able to have inbound leads coming in was really, really effective just to kind of get more people in the loop. And now we're going to start to scale it up thereafter, which is pretty cool. So I want to kind of go through stats. I want to share my screen. I want to kind of just unveil what happened and also how I made some terrible mistakes, because I think we all do. And hopefully you can learn on it, understand how to implement this on your journey, and ultimately scale up your business or build an organic arm if you haven't got it already. So let's share my screen here. I'm hoping I can get this working. Is this now sharing? I think it is. Well, I think that's the wrong screen there, so let's try again. We'll see if we can get a second one coming up here. Oh, this is very interesting. So, okay, so this is going to share my screen. All right, so it's the first time I've been using Safari on this. So I'm going to move this in here. Now, I assume you can now see my stats. Can you give me a thumbs up in our little restream here, if you can? Can you give me a thumbs up if you can start to see stats on screen? I just want to make sure you guys can see stuff. Or just put it in the chat. That'll be very helpful. Cool. All right, nice. So we're up and running. I'll deal with these technical difficulties a little bit later on. So let's rock and roll with this. So these are the stats over the past kind of 90 days. So you can see followers have increased by about 1,000 and a bit. Engagements increased. Posts have obviously increased as well. But ultimately, what's most important for me is impressions, understanding that you are reaching more people, and also are they engaging with your content. So that's kind of the most important thing for me that I want to be paying attention to, as well as comments. So overall, stats-wise, it's good. Most important for us really is not only giving back, but also book calls. And that worked out really, really well. So as part of this, let me rock and roll. I'm going to share content performance. So this is basically every single post that we've done from, I think, March 16th. So it's roughly about 90 days. I'm missing about 4 days of data. And what this does is basically gives us everything we need exported from Taplio. Taplio is obviously one of the tools you can use to help with kind of content, scheduling, and things like that. So when we look into performance, what was quite interesting is you can see kind of overall what's going on. We can see, do I want to repost it? How well did it do? And this was very helpful for me to kind of understand overall where we're going. But what's interesting is when we look into pillars, format, and then the hook. And this is really where when you start to kind of level up your content, you want to be paying more attention to. So in this case, when we look into the pillars, if we have a look here, so there's these 6 pillars that I kind of noticed. So we speak about leads and revenue, systems and automations, personal performance is like the bread and butter. But I also added in some inspiration of like some key dates of when I did my TED Talk in Chinese, or when I did a Spartan Warrior event, or other things like that, just to kind of give a bit of motivation and inspire people on their journey. And I thought I'd put that in under a different category. We've got other, which is just like random stuff. And then trends as well was something else that's kind of a pillar that I wanted to be able to measure. Then I've got some formats here. So I'll kind of explain these all in due course. What's most important really is what doesn't work and what does work, so that you can understand if you're going to do this, you can obviously learn from what works for me. It may not be the exact same thing, but hopefully it can give you some guidance on your journey. So as we're looking into kind of content performance by type, and this is where it gets quite interesting, we can see the number of posts, we can see the average impressions and the average engagement. Now, there are a lot of tools that kind of try and do this for you, but to be honest, just building out this spreadsheet where we can now just copy and paste information in is much easier. I can just have a VA do it, and then I can come in here and actually look at what's going on. And my plan is to do this basically every 90 days, and we can figure out how best to move forward. So I want to explain what worked very well and what didn't work. So we had like reminders of lives going out. That was terrible. Sharing my newsletter on my feed didn't work out well. Sharing a testimonial, I think it was kind of the way we shared it, didn't work out too well. A pitch was horrendous. What else didn't work out well? We did like a carousel with value. So I thought carousels would work out a little better than they did. I think this is to do a little bit with what is in there and how it was positioned. There was a few learnings, which I'll share with you. One of the things that we noticed is the way in which people will look at their challenges differs. So as an example, a lot of our clients struggle with perfectionism. However, when we speak about it, it's not something they often acknowledge. So it's better to lead with other things as opposed to calling that out, like control freak or procrastination. Like, it doesn't really resonate as much as what it is that they want, being able to generate more leads, be more consistent on social, set things up in a different way, etc. The other thing that didn't work out well for us was these gem short videos. So obviously I mentioned that I kind of brought a marketer on. She had an idea of coming up with a series of entrepreneur lifestyle gems. Now, although this is me speaking on camera and giving a lot of value, it didn't actually work out that well on LinkedIn. Like Instagram, it was pretty good, but it didn't work out on LinkedIn. And this is where you want to be aware of kind of what you're doing on each platform. I'm just gonna move this briefly just to make sure we're good. Okay, cool. Sandra, I'm glad you can see this. Okay, nice. So, so far, I'll stop sharing briefly before I kind of explain some of the key learnings here. So far, what we've done is we've actually looked at data, seen what's going on, and not just looking at impressions, but seeing kind of the type of content, and also the book calls that are connected to each of it. Now, I've got the guys working on a better template for Q3. We understand kind of like where they come from, and there's a different way in which we track our organic leads. This is an example of how you could better understand kind of your content performance and figure out what's going on accordingly. So now what I want to do is start to look forward and to figure out what it is that we're going to be doing and focusing on in order to start to scale this up more moving into Q3. And I'm going to be really excited to share with you the results probably in the next kind of 3-4 months or so, once we get kind of that Q3 data and explain a little bit more organically what's going on. If you guys have any questions at all during the live, if you're here, feel free to kind of put them in the comments. I'm more than happy to answer that at this point in time. But I also want to show you a little bit more about kind of what's working, and then we can kind of do a little bit of a Q&A at the end. I know some people attend live. I know some people just watch the recording. I just want to make sure that you get the value that you are looking for. All right, so let's rock and roll now with sharing my screen again. Apologies about not being able to share my screen properly, but this will do for now. All right, here we go. Cool. So let's think about what worked well here. So speaking videos worked out well. This was repurposed videos of me speaking on stage, sharing different stuff. That was really class. If you've got that, that's a good one to do. Key dates. This was my little secret thing that I thought was going to be wicked. And this is what happened. So I was seeing people share things like 387 days ago, I stopped this. 3 years ago, I did that. And I thought that was quite interesting because it gives people a timeline and it gives you an opportunity to throw back. And often what will happen on Facebook, you'll get memories from like 2 years ago. So what I did with my marketer is we said, look, what are some of the key dates and things that have happened to me that I think would be really inspiring to be able to share with people over the course of the months that we had of kind of April, May, and June. And some of the things that I came up with was the TED Talk, prepping for the TED Talk, how to deal with challenges, what happened when my first TED Talk got cancelled, being able to do a Spartan race, what my learnings were there, why I started playing tennis, like just other things that are pretty random, but it gives a lesson. And it's really resonating with people when they understand a story. So that worked out very well. Occasional key dates for clarity is, I don't know, Valentine's Day, or I think in this one it was May the 4th, like May the 4th be with you was the one that we did in May. And then this one is RIA text. We've also got video here as well. That was pretty good. At the moment, I'm kind of highlighting on engagement because I think that's really what I wanted to go for. But we can also see the difference in impressions as well with regards to our polls, and they get a lot of impressions, and I'll walk through that in a sec. So RIA, what is that? It's one of the strategies we teach our clients. It's called results in advance, okay? A lot of people nowadays are looking for a quick win. They want things fast, they want things now, they're used to scrolling, you need to help that with your clients. So as an example, when I was working with our clients, I realized there was a few things that we did which add a lot of value. One thing was having a daily tracking sheet so that you wouldn't have any leads fall through the cracks. Spent a lot of time trying to figure out what would make the most sense on LinkedIn, coming up with a better system. So now we just share it with people. And it's a post. It will say something like, hey, we've used this LinkedIn daily tracker to book 5 to 7 calls. Well, actually, I think it was like 10 calls per week over the past 3 months. Let me know if you want it. Now, what happens is all these people will comment, right? Now, when they're commenting, suddenly they want it, they're interested, people will see it, they'll see it, and this is an opportunity to then have a call because they're obviously interested in what you have to offer. RIA video is basically the same thing, but sharing it in a video format. Now, lead polls and engagement polls, I should have probably highlighted this as well. They're really fantastic to be able to generate organic leads for your business, especially when you're putting polls in a different way. Engagement is you're driving engagement, coming up with like a genuinely interesting thing. And then leads is kind of sharing a poll where the people that would answer could be potential clients for you. And then we can see lives were pretty good as well. So this is why I'm doing lives now, but it's hard to kind of get the ball rolling and move things forward in a more sustainable way. Obviously here from our pillar perspective, it's somewhat similar. Like we see inspirational, did well, systems and automations, but to be honest, at this point, I can't really make any decisions except that trends was pretty damn good. So I want to make sure I'm sharing really interesting trends as part of my network to be able to move forward. Now, as part of this, I want to stop sharing because I think this would be interesting to kind of share a little bit more about what we're doing moving forward. So I understood this. I kind of get where we are with content. I understand it for moving forward. When I was looking at our content, I'm going to kind of share with you, and I mentioned this post today, is I realized it was a little bit too #vanilla. Let me explain what I mean by this. A lot of people use AI in different ways, and unfortunately, as you grow as a business and a brand, often your content can be diluted because as a founder, you're not getting involved. And that kind of happened over the past 6 months or so. And the challenge that I had is that as we've started to scale, I've started to take more sales calls, to take on more people and take on more clients. It's been really challenging to have the time and space to be able to do the content consistently. So what I wanted to be able to do for the next quarter is move away from #vanilla and instead add some more flavor like pistachio, mango, dark chocolate, like do things in a different way that I think is going to do wonders for our content for the next 3 months. So I'd be really excited, and my goal is to really double the impressions that we've already had. So I think we had 60,000. It'd be great if we could have 120,000 and then start to ramp that up each quarter. So my goal is really to hone in on that. Now there's a few really core things, and there's one core thing in particular that I'm doing that is slightly different from what we did this quarter, and it's sharing a ton of really high value content. When I was working with a marketer, I said, ask me questions so I can give you high value. And I realized what probably makes more sense is me sharing the journey, what's going on, and you can see kind of realistically what we're doing as I'm growing. And you can obviously take tips and implement that yourself as you're learning from my mistakes. So that's something that I'm really working towards and making sure we're being consistent with that. And I'm really excited to see what happens in due course as we start to move things forward. I'm going to be wrapping this up very shortly. If anyone's got any questions, feel free to put it in the chat. Otherwise, I'm going to make this short and sweet because I respect your time. But I do genuinely hope that you have found this useful, and I wish you the best of luck with kind of moving your organic forward. If you need any help, obviously you can just drop us a message. I'm happy to share kind of more tips and tricks of the trade, but this is a good example of what's possible and making sure you've obviously got kind of those templates. If you are using Taplio and you want to create something similar to what we have, feel free to kind of drop me a message as well. I can see if I can get the team to template it so that you can kind of measure your content performance based on your own pillars, etc. I'd also recommend as well tracking your quality leads and book calls. It's something that we weren't as consistent with because I really didn't know what was going to happen. I mean, we knew where leads were coming from, but I wanted to be able to relate it to the exact type of content and when they did it, etc. So that's something that we're going to be doubling down on as well, moving into Q3. With that said, guys, I'm going to be wrapping this up. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's a pleasure to kind of unveil the curtains and share what's going on. And I look forward to seeing you in the next live once we decide the topic. If you've got anything that you want to know, feel free to comment. Let me know if you've got anything that you want me to cover in particular. And in the meantime, have a wonderful evening, afternoon, morning, wherever you are in the world. And I will speak to you soon. See you later.